Bhagavad-padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastu Andhakaro Vai Rukarastu Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. So in the last class we had gone over the 107th verse from the second chapter of Pancadasi, which was the exact copy of Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter verse number 23. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo anirvinna chetasa. So the first line of this verse, just a very quick revision. The first line was to define exactly what needs to be done. Because here, just a revision again, the word yoga is not possible to be used in its classical sense. The classical sense is the connection of two separate pieces, reaching or gaining. So that is what yoga is normally. But here, because the Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same, so you cannot have yoga in the classical sense. So it has to be doing just the opposite. So there is still something to be done because we don't feel we are free. So there what it is to be said is that the reason for it is that you have connected to a wrong thing. Your connection is to your body-mind complex. That has already been a yoga. And so the only way you can achieve the yoga with Paramatma is if you disassociate yourself from the body-mind complex. We know all of this very well by now, and so here it is really just a misidentification. And so once that misidentification is corrected, then you don't have to do anything else because you already are Paramatma Swarupaha. There is nothing to be achieved. It's praptasya praptihi. So this is an important verse, I thought. And so that was the first line of the verse number 107. And then the second line gives you the method to see this. So he says, Saha nishchayena yoktavyaha. So please remove all your doubts about this, because our doubts are really, is this true? I can't believe that I am not what I think I am. Because everybody else also thinks the same way. And I have also been thinking about it all my life, in all of the previous lives. And so all of a sudden, for me to now make this change, Are we sure about this? So the Shastra says, yes, you do have to do that. And so you have to please convince your mind with all of the arguments, the truthful arguments. And so here it doesn't matter how long you have been making this mistake. That's not the important criteria. So the truth is not a majority. There was a very beautiful example given by Swami Dayanandji that suppose there is a cave that has never seen any light for millions of years. That cave was never discovered, and so the darkness has been there for millions of years. And if that cave was discovered by some people who are carrying some flashlights, torchlights, some kind of lights, and this happens all the time. There is exploration of deep-seated caves. So it doesn't mean that a million-year-old ignorance, darkness, will take a long time for it to go. No. It might be million years old, 2 million years old, infinite number, doesn't matter. As soon as you flash one light to it, it's gone. So it's not a majority kind, it's not a balance that 1 year old ignorance will take 1 year to remove it, 2 year old ignorance will take 2 years to remove it. No, there is no linearity to it. All that happens is that you have to be sure about it, and then you have to convince your mind. Because the mind also picks up a lot of doubts, which says, are you sure? Is this really true? Can it happen? Has anybody done this? All kinds of things. So this is the second line. He says, Saha nishchayena yoktavyaha. Yoktavyaha means yujyata. It should be really connected. Here the same connection is the yoga samjitam, which is sukh, dukkha, samyoga, viyogam. So that has to be yoktavyaha. How this yoga, yoktavyaha, how nirvinna chetasa. Nirvinna chetasa means that with the right mind, the right attitude, and not really be perturbed about it, not be discouraged about it, not be impatient about it, but to just, this is what Shraddha is, just do it. And if your mind gives some objections, then just say, be quiet. I know what I'm doing. And so this is the anirvinna chetasa. Okay, so now we go into the anirvinna chetas. Some more commentary on it. And in fact, if you look at verse number 108, it starts with this good explanation of anirvinna chetas. Yunjan eva sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. So he says, the thing to do is, once this truth has been revealed to you by an apta purusha. So the Shastra here is an apta purusha. Apta purusha means someone who knows. So it's very much like, supposing you are you're going on some destination and it's a new place that you've never been to, and it is complicated because you have to take some turns, you have to turn right here and then look for your notes to see what does it say after the second line. Then you will see some kind of a gas station, and then you have to turn right, left there, like that. There's some instructions, and you don't seem to be getting anywhere, and your doubts are starting to come up. So then you can ask someone and say, am I going the right way? I have to go to meet this person who lives on the hill. And he says, oh, this Swami? He says, yes, you are going the right way. But he says, don't but or anything like this. What is your instructions? So you give him the instruction. He says, those are absolutely the right ones. Don't have any doubt. Just go. This is what is called an apta purusha. This is exactly what the Shastra tells us. That if you have any doubts or anything, you just follow the instructions, and very soon you will begin to see, because this is all Ananda Vichara. All of this is Ananda Mimamsa. Because, the way the doubts come up is that, I've been studying this for a while, nothing seems to be happening, not much. I'm a little bit better, but not to the degree that I want. And I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. So this is exactly like there are some obstacles on the way, and you're not sure you're going the right way. Exactly the same way. The Shastra says, just keep going. Don't worry about it. Just don't get perturbed by your own mind, as raises all kinds of doubts and so on. So that's exactly when he says, Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. He says brahma sparsham. Brahma sparsham means yoga samgitam from the previous verse, means the acquisition of Brahman. Brahman means that one which is infinite, one which is unlimited. That's exactly what we are all trying to do. And so the Brahma samsparsham, he says, sukhena, you will do it. So here in the commentary, Swami Maheshananji makes some very beautiful points here. He says, what happens is that yeah, that's a point that is going to come in the next verse. I was going to tell you something else, but I'll just wait for a while. Here, in the commentary of this verse, Swami Maheshananji takes this opportunity to find out, to not communicate, not to find out, but to communicate that the difficulties are compounded by the fact that the Maya Shakti, which is the mother of all of your feeling of samsari, your feeling of being limited and having problems in life and not being able to achieve what I want to do, all of these kinds of things. This is what samsara is. The mother of that is Maya. This is the cause of really all of the doubts, etc. And Swamiji Maheshanji makes a point. He says, the mother is very fond of the son. Here the son is given the kind of the example. And she doesn't want to lose this son to someone else. It happens in Indian marriages that the relationship with a mother and son changes as soon as he gets married. And the mom loves the son but doesn't want to get rid of him, because now he is going to start turning towards his wife, and the mother feels very jealous. So it puts some, it's not happy about it. But that is the right thing for the person to do. You cannot say, I'm not going to get married because my mother will get very upset. No. Yeah, she has to get upset. That's okay. That's all part of the game. But you have to go do what you need to do. Otherwise, how are you going to have children? How are you going to get married? Some love also has to be diverted. All of those things have to be done. It's tough, but yes, absolutely. So that is one of the examples that is given in the commentary of this particular verse. Okay. Now, one other thing, and I will decide after doing the next few verses whether we have done enough in this vein, and then shift the attention to a different topic, because I think I don't want to overdo it. We have done quite a bit of this in terms of, the Ananda Swarupaha, Nijanandaha, then all of those are the different kinds, Vasananandaha, the sleep, and then now we are saying that fine, sleep I have Ananda, but on the Jagrat, what do I need to do? This is what we are doing. And so after we finish this, then I'll take a pause and see whether we want to do any more or perhaps go to a different topic. Okay? But at this point, the enunciation of the process of gaining Ananda, in which Bhagavad Gita played a very major role, as you know, because they borrowed a lot of the process steps from the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We just finished doing that with the 626. So now, just to make sure that this is not just from Bhagavad Gita, this is also given in the Shruti itself. The Bhagavad Gita, of course, is a Smriti, which is a restatement of the Shruti. But all these teachers, they don't miss a step to make sure that you are connected directly to the Shruti. That being the case, now the same thing is being restated in terms of a Upanishad called, in Yajurveda, called Maitrayani. Maitrayani is an Upanishad. And so, now, some examples are taken from there, some way of looking at it is taken from there, both as a confirmation and also have a slightly different way of looking at the same thing so that it is strengthened. So, this is starting with verse number 111 of Pancadasi. Okay? So it's a very beautiful illustration, just to tell you how the various texts in the various Upanishads convey the same truth in different examples, and all those are very useful. So, for example, he says the following: the Maitrayani Upanishad says the following. He says, take the fundamental nature of one of the Panchabhutas, which is fire. Fire is one of the 5 great elements. So, starting with Akasha, then Vayu, and then comes the first visible Panchamahabhuta, which is fire. So the fire is the first time that you can see something. Akasha you cannot see, Vayu you cannot see, but from that point on it becomes more visible. So in Taittiriya Upanishad this is given as Satcha Tyacha. So Sat and Tyach means visible and non-visible. There are different ways of looking at Sat and Tyat, but this is one way of looking at it, that the fire becomes visible. So now one should know, the students of Vedanta should know this, that the entire cosmos is endowed with all these 5 Pancha Mahabhutas. Akasha is very obvious. No matter what galaxy you are in, supposing you reach a galaxy which is just amazing. So you look at all of these stars, they are in light years. So how far is that? That's in 2 million light years. That means that the light takes 2 million years to go from one point to the other. This is how far they are. Mind-boggling. Okay, so the light that you are seeing now was started by a star which was 2 million years ago. And the star may not even be there today, but the light is now coming in just now. Anyway, supposing you go to the star 2 million light years apart, you will find the same Pancha Mahabhutas. You will see Akasha, obvious. You will see some wind of some kind. You'll see fire. You'll see water. And you will see Prithvi, some solidity. Same Pancha Mahabhutas. Everywhere. And of course, there is Atma, which is the originator of all these 5 consciousness. Always, everybody there. Because consciousness is timeless, spaceless. Means it's not limited by time or space. It is Purnaha. So of course that will be there. But now let's turn our attention back to fire for a minute. This is the example in this Maitrayani. He says, suppose you take fire and suppose something is burning. Fire is, there's a log of wood and it's on fire. And it is visible and it gives out 2 things, light and heat. So this is visible fire. Then the log burns out. Okay? As the log burns out, the fire diminishes. It diminishes. It diminishes. And finally, you don't see the fire at all. The wood has become ashes and the fire is gone. So the question is, has the fire died? When you say that the fire is gone, is the fire dead? Even the scientists know that the answer is no. The fire never dies. It only expresses itself under the right conditions. If the conditions are not right, it just stays in the background. Non-visible fire. And so really speaking, it requires a medium to express itself. And so, for example, this table, This table looks like it's a nice cold flat surface, stable. It has fire in it. And all you need to do is to invoke the fire in the table. And the table can also start burning. The fire will be there. You can say that there is no fire in the air. Of course there is, because this is what heat is. Heat comes from fire alone. And so it's in an invisible way it is there. And so therefore we can conclude, as the Upanishad says, that the fire is either visible or invisible, but it never dies. You see, this is an important thing to see, that the energy of the fire is always there, and it just needs to be invoked in some form or the other. That's it. So this is now the example. What is exemplified by this is our thoughts. Our thoughts. And the thoughts are the basis of our experiences. So the entire life consists of nothing but a variety of thoughts. Good thoughts, sad thoughts, terrible thoughts, and sometimes no thoughts. So when there are no thoughts, which is very unusual, certainly happens in deep sleep, not in the dream state or in the waking state, but in deep sleep state there are no thoughts. Or in complete samadhi, the yogic samadhi, in which there is no thoughts whatsoever. And even in some deep meditation, it's very possible. Doesn't matter whatever the situation is. The question is this: if the thought disappears, does it die? Like when the fire disappeared, did it die? And the answer to the fire is no, because fire is all pervasive in the entire cosmos. Similarly, the basis of thought. So you can say that the basis of the visible fire is the invisible fire, which is there in a very pure, subtle form. That's the basis of the fire. The basis of the thoughts, therefore, also is Chit Swarupaha. Chit Swarupaha. And so thoughts are called Chittam. Chittam. So grammatically, in addition to Chit, another takara is used to express the fact that it is a visible Chit. Chit Swarupa is Atma. Chit Sat Chit Anandaha. A Chit which is always Sat. and without any limitations. Anantam, Jnanam. This is Chit. But Chit in a non-visible way. It is not Drishya Rupaha as we know. It is always Drik, but always Drik, always there. So, if the thoughts die, if the thoughts disappear, they don't die. Then they simply become non-visible. So therefore, conscious entity, which is Jnanam, which is Chit Swarupam, Samvit, different words to use that, is always there. Like fire is always there, the basis of the fire, which is Chit Swarupa, is always there. See, this is what Atma is. It's not zero. In fact, just the opposite of zero. The Buddhists talk about Shunya, the Shunyavada. So their thing is that we just remove all our thoughts from us and we'll be okay. Means that when you remove all the thoughts, what happens to them? Well, just make sure that they never come up again. Okay, fine, I understand that, but then we have to ask the question, so the thought has disappeared, that means that the basis of the thought is dead? And the Buddhists will say yes. And the Vedantins don't accept that. They think this is not really true. Why? Because of this example. So this is given in Maitrayani. So now the question is, so what? So what is the reason for giving this illustration about Agni, the fire, and the fact that Chittam is really Chit Swarupaha? It is simply either manifest or unmanifest. So, one very big thing is to visualize, to accept and to, not accept but to visualize and to think about the fact that the Atma is always there, Chit Swarupa. And so, even when one is quiet, doesn't mean that you disappear. You, the conscious entity, is always there. And so the only difference is whether the conscious entity expresses itself in the form of visibility, and it expresses itself in visibility in terms of having a form. This formlessness takes on as though a form. It never really takes on the form, because the form is not on the same level of reality as the formless. So the formless is always there, which is Satyam. It has a certain level of reality. And the form that it takes on, apparently it takes on, it has the ability to take on, doesn't make it any less. So there the example of the gold and the gold ornaments becomes very visible. And so the gold is not going to take a form by it doesn't. So this is what is called. We have seen this elsewhere, but in this topic, I can expand it to say that the change of gold to become ornaments, the gold is not a parinami upadana karanam. It doesn't undertake any basic change, which is called parinama. So parinama is a change which is irreversible. So the gold becomes a formful entity. And the formful entity is really not in the form of a parinama. It is in the form of vivarta, which we have gone through that many times. I'm sure you are aware of the definition. So this is the basis of the whole creation, that the Paramatma becomes visible, and the visibility is like the ornaments of a gold, where there is no permanent change. It just appears as a change, when in fact it never changes itself. This is the beauty of the example of the gold and its ornaments, or clay and all the various parts. Same issue. Same thing with water and waves. And all these examples are important because they convey vivarta upadana karanam. That there is a change without a change. And so really this is exactly what chittam is. Now we can see it. So chittam and chit is like an ornament and the basic gold, which is the very content of the basic content of the ornaments. And so this is how chit and chittam is. So now we can go back and say the reason why this example was given in Maitrayani Upanishad is to say that if you remove some of the oscillations of your chittam, because what happens to the chittam is that your thoughts assume a false reality. So what that means is that when a person is born, from the very beginning, the thoughts associated with the person who is born makes the person who appears to be born real. You see, this is exactly what happened. So there is an I thought. So the I thought, which is the basis of the expression of the body-mind complex, is also nothing but chittam. Another way to look at it, this is a very beautiful analysis given in various texts and so on, that there are two things involved, two kinds of thoughts. What is called idam chittam and aham chittam. right? So this thought and I thought. This thought originates from the I thought. But even though it originates from the I thought, let me make sure I don't lose my place on this. Even though it originates from the I thought, both of them are there together. And both of them assume an equally false reality. How? Because the I thought is also chittam. It is not chit. You see the distinction? It is a visible I thought. So now what happens is that the I thought becomes grossified. It becomes a different level of reality. It is kind of like an appliance that glows, borrowing the electricity. So it now assumes some kind of a reality. And so that is the I thought. And then also the this thought. So aham vritti also then starts to possess, this is mine. Idam and aham become mixed up in a lower level of reality. But both of the lower levels of reality, which is aham, I thought, as well as this thought, are nothing but an expression of Chit Swarupam. See this fact. This Chit Swarupam. So therefore, this is what I need to, this is what is called realization. This is where I have to reach myself. My goodness, I'm only at the level of the I thought at this point. I am the one who is, that's the limit of what my life is. I'm taking myself to be a visible human being. This is the error. And so the Maitrayani Upanishad expresses this as a way of explaining what the verse number 107 was of the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga Samgitam. And so tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam. Yoga Samgitam. Anirvinna chetasa. So Anirvinna Chetasa here, this is what he's connecting those two and saying this is another way of looking at it. So means an upset mind is because your self-evaluation as a person is false. Because it has a lower level of reality. It is like that of an appliance. Like an appliance will say, I'm very vulnerable. What if the electricity leaves me? I can be out of business. So it's very justified in saying that. But the electricity which is flowing through the appliance is real and it will never die. I mean, we have some problems with that example because you can say, what if the appliance gets cut off from the electricity? All those kinds of things can come in. Here that is not the case. And the electricity also can be turned off, turned on. So it's not a perfect example, it's just a relative example. But here in the case of the Atma, it is never extinguished. like a fire, can never be extinguished. It is always there in the entire cosmos. Space can never be extinguished. You can never say, I'm going to eliminate space. But really speaking, Swami Khandananda ji says that really speaking, if you want, you can even say that the mind is greater than the space. You see, this is a very interesting thing to see. So if you have these Pancha Mahabhutas going there all the way from Prithvi to Jalam to Agni to Vayu to Akasha, and Akasha is the ultimate. It is not the ultimate. What? How can you say that Akasha is not the ultimate? Because the Akasha resides in the mind, Manaha. Because the Akasha, space, is based on my estimation of space in the Jagrat Avastha, in the waking state. And in the dream state, I have a different type of Akasha, not the same. So therefore, the mind is greater than the Akasha. So is the mind the ultimate? No. Because the mind is nothing but consciousness expressed. So this is why even if the mind disappears in deep sleep, if so Akasha disappears in deep sleep and the mind also disappears in deep sleep, but I am still there as my consciousness. Happy sleeper. So therefore, the Chit Swarupaha is a higher level of reality, which, so in this example, we can go back to, this is a good example to think about, that a visible fire is a lower level of reality than the invisible fire, isn't it? It may be there, it may not be there. It depends upon, is there wood available for me to burn? I have to, this kind of like an appliance. And so the invisible fire is like electricity, and the visible fire is like an appliance. So similarly, here also, it is very unfortunate that I am stuck in only the visible consciousness. I feel this is who I am. But if I make my mind subtle, worry-free, desire-free, those are the steps that we are talking about, then this is anirvinna chetasa. I should see that there is a greater glory waiting for me, which is Chit Swarupaha, one which is always there. It may not be visible, but doesn't matter. Swami Maheshananji and Khandananji, all the say, he says, can you ever possibly say you are not there? Is it possible for you? This is impossible. And if you challenge this conclusion. It is only because you couple it to a form. You simply say, yeah, I know that I was not there, or I may not be there. I'm not talking about the form. I'm talking about you as you are. I am. You cannot negate it. There are three things that you cannot negate. One is that you are. Second thing is that you are conscious. And the third thing is that you are limitless. In fact, not bound by anything. You cannot eliminate any one of these three things. That is what Satyam is. The definition of Satyam is that one which is never not there. And the only thing that is never not there is the Atma, you. Don't you see this? This is what is achieved by Nirvinna Chetasa. So so this is taken up in verses number 112 and verse number 113. And so Nirvinna Chetasa means purifying your mind. Antakarna Shuddhi. Purifying your mind. So we have talked about this before. What do you mean by a purification of the mind? And we have talked about it. We have grasped quite a bit of it. So there it just means free of concern, free of worries, free of doubts, free of likes, intense likes and dislikes, free of sense of limitation, free of untruth, free of cleverness, just being yourself, self-accepting is the Antakarna Shuddhi. And the Antakarna Shuddhi is the one that allows you to see the Chit Svarupaha, not get stuck in the Chittaha. Because one can see that a pure mind who is at peace with oneself alone has the subtlety to reach samvit, to reach Chit Swarupam. Otherwise you are stuck at the level of Chittam, where you're worried, who am I, what is going on, can I ever do this, etc. All supported by the I thought. This is the situation. Here there is a little discussion, very nice discussion here, that there is a certain shrishti, there is a certain creation. And is it not that I am at the mercy of the creation? Isn't it the fact that really all the sukha dukkha is imposed on me and I'm just a single person at the disposal of the whole world that can bother me? And how am I going to overcome this? Is that possible for me? This is a huge world. Here the discussion is that there are two things that we should be clear about. One is the definition of what is called Jagat, and the other one is Samsara. So this distinction should be grasped very well by us. So Jagat is Ishvara Shrishti. It is the creation of the Almighty. Jagat. And it's in a form, it's a very interesting creation because it's a non-creation, but it looks like a creation. Through the vibrations, kind of like vibrations, it has some stability. Even though there's no real stability, and that is given in the word Jagat itself. Jayate gacchati iti. It is gone as soon as it is born. So the whole body, for example, is a continuous change. All the cells of the body are getting completely changed every millisecond. Movement, but it has the feeling that I am very solid, I am here, unchanging. Same thing with we have given this example about the table. It is just continuous. If you had all these instruments of a scientist and you look into this table, what you will find is that there is continuous movement and space. There is no solidity, but it looks like it's solid. So the Jagat is continuously moving, but it has a sense of stability to it. This is how the Ishvara creates multiplicity. May I become many. This is what the Leela is. This is what the creation is. Okay, so this is the Jagat. And also one can say that the Jagat is perfect the way it is. Perfect. There's no mistakes in it, no faults, no incompletions, no oops, I forgot to do this in it. It is perfect with its variety. And all the acharyas say that really, sometimes you see that why do we need to have people who are not good? Well, how will you define a good person unless you see a bad person? There's no such thing as a bad person, but someone that has a bad disposition, one who gets angry. This is how the contrasting is. So the variety of things in the whole universe, it's all beautiful. It's just very well made. Then we superimpose our own shrishti on top of that. We look at it differently than Ishvara looks at it. This is called samsara. So the same Jagat is looked upon by us individually through the eyes of particular personal likes and dislikes. Isn't it? So this is how subjectivity comes in. So, very simply that supposing there is a grown woman and she's, 40 years, 45 years of age, and now different people look at her differently. Her mother looks at her differently. If she's married, her husband looks at her differently. If she has children, the children look at her differently. If there is a person in the office who doesn't like her, he or she looks at her differently. And a person who likes her, friends, look at her differently. So in that manner, this woman is the Ishvara Srishti. But your feelings towards this woman is Jiva Srishti. And the Jiva Srishti is the samsara. So the Jagat by itself is not good or bad, but you're superimposing some values based on your own background and so on and so forth. This is what creates a samsara. So, there is this is given in verse number 114, and I'll end with that. I think that's what I would like to just, So this is an important point. So this is verse number 114. It says, Chittasya hi prasadena hanti karma shubha shubham prasanna atma atmani sthitva sukham akshayam ashnute. One more time. Chittasya hi prasadena hanti karma shubha shubham prasanna atma atmani sthitva sukham akshayam ashnute. So the word meaning of that is, so here's the word chitta. You saw the chitta. Chitta here just, means thoughts. So by purifying the thoughts, purifying means in the way we looked at before, by looking at the Jagat as Jagat, not as samsara. That's the ultimate advantage of a Chitta Shuddhi is you see things objectively, not subjectively. If that's the case with Chittasya hi prasadena, so prasada means that by the blessing of your chitta, the blessing of your purified mind, it overcomes Shubha and Ashubha karma phala. It overcomes Shubha karma and Ashubha karma. So the results of Shubha karma means good karma, and Ashubha means not so good karma. So which gives rise to punya and papa, which gives rise to sukha dukkha in life. All sukha dukkha is really based on your previous situations leading up to the present. So those sukha dukkhas are overcome by the prasada of the chitta. So look at this. Chittasya hi prasadena hanti karma shubhakshubham. Hanti means it destroys, kills it, overcomes it. So I'll explain the whole thing in a minute, but let me just go through the word meaning. So that's the first line. The second line is Prasanna Atma Atmani Sthitva. So this Prasanna Atma, here Prasanna Atma means Prasanna Chitta. It's not the Paramatma. So here Prasanna Atma means Prasanna Chitta, a pleased mind. Atmani Sthitva. a pleased mind which is already situated in Chit Swarupaha, not in Chittam. It dissolves itself. It's like understands that, my goodness, I am nothing but a modification of Chit Swarupaha. So, Prasanna Atmani, Atmani Sthitva, staying with it. The more you resort to it, you have the ability to stay with it. Not just touch it and then go back to Jagat again. Or to Jagat, there's no need to go away from Jagat, but to look upon it as samsara. You quickly touch Atma and then go back to samsara. No, stay there. Stay there and see the beauty of the prasada of the Chittam. And if you do that, Sukham Akshayam. Akshaya means one that doesn't sharati, doesn't go away. You just stay with yourself. You attain that. Anashnute. You gain it. It becomes your own. So here, so this is the word meaning. So in terms of the implications of this, really interesting. The implications of this are, and this is a question that sometimes students may ask. I'm not sure that they do ask, but they may ask. This question might come up. And that is that you've talked about prarabdha karma, that you have to be, there's nothing you can do about prarabdha karma as we say it. We say the prarabdha karma is going to, it's already started and it's going to take its own course. There's nothing, you cannot stop it. So that's the prarabdha karma. So they say that if that is the case, then all of this chitta prasada and bhakti and meditation, how is that going to help me? If I'm going to become sukha dukkha as a result of past karma, karma is the one which is going to really determine how I feel, then how is this self-knowledge going to really help me? Excuse me. So this verse clarifies it. It says, Chittasya hi prasadena hanti karma shubha shubham. He says, here's what will happen. Yes, we don't deny that prarabdha karma is going to play out and you will meet certain unpleasant situations, so on. That's going to happen. But the effect on you would be muted. It will be much more muted. Why? Because you will be sitting in the soft lap of your Atma. Right now there is no soft lap, you can fall down with a thud. And you do. But when bad things happen, even if bad things happen while you are pursuing this knowledge and thinking about it and taking steps to do that, the effect of bad things will be much more muted, if at all. And very soon you will see that Atma Vidya insulates you from karma phala. It might happen, but it won't affect you nearly to the same degree that it would have if you had not really done so. This is the beauty of this particular verse. It's an important verse. And so with that, I will close this class. And let me think about it, whether we want to continue to focus on this, or perhaps we have done enough analysis and maybe have a shift in topics. I will decide on that when we meet next week. Okay, with that. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Very good to see you all. Wonderful. Balamani, your question: when one dies, the body becomes cold. Is it due to the Atma left? Well, the Atma doesn't leave, because the Atma is ever present at all times, at all places. It is timeless, and it is spaceless and vastuless. So there is absolutely no question of its dying, as in the Namriyate Kadachit and all the Hanyamane Sharire in the Bhagavad Gita, as Sri Krishna says. So there is no question about the Atma leaving. It cannot leave anywhere. There is no place where it is not there. So then what happens is that so the human being has a presence as an entity. So this is what we call the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. So the subtle body has the ability to be full of chittam, as we have been discussing. So this chittam is there as long as a person has not fully understood that the chittam is nothing but chit swarupam itself. So because the I thought of the chittam also gathers certain visible body along with it, so now you have a visible person. This is what a person is. So the person consists of the Sukshma Sharira, which is Chittam, and it consists of the sthula sharira, which is this body, which is due to prarabdha karma, and of course it has the karana sharira, which is I don't know who I am, I don't know. It is the effect of not knowing that I am the very Atma. So now at the time of the death, then what happens is that the body naturally collapses because it is meant to be a temporary thing. It just ages and after a while it stops working. The Sukshma Sharira continues. It continues. Exactly like in a sleeping pattern, you're giving up your body and you are creating a world based on your own thoughts and mind, based on certain remembrances and vasanas and so on. And in the deep sleep state, then even that disappears. But you don't disappear. You are still the same person. The death is not any different. The only difference is that the sthula sharira is non-reusable, as it is in the dream state. So at the time of death, that body has to be given up, a new body has to be taken up, because your desire to be present is still there. And so a new body is taken up. This process continues on. And so there is a disconnect between, you can say, the disconnect is that the Sukshma Sharira is no longer able to service the Sthula Sharira, and the Sthula Sharira becomes cold. And the Sukshma Sharira continues. And how long does it continue? Until it understands that I am nothing but my own Atma. In which case even the Sukshma Sharira also disappears. So the person stays with the Atma, and that becomes the very basis of the whole creation. You becomes the Atma of the whole creation. That's the process that we go through. All right, if there's no other questions, then I will say, Keshav Chopra says, please explain Karana Sharira in detail. So Karana Sharira is simply self-ignorance. It means that there is an entity called ignorance. We all know what, so when you, this is the very basis of the whole creation, is that you can have something, but if you don't completely understand it, it is due to some ignorance. So the Karana means a cause. So the cause of your being a limited person is the ignorance that you are an unlimited person. That's all. This is the Karana Sharira. There's nothing more to it. But then as a result of the ignorance that I am the unlimited person, you create a sense of limitation. In fact, let me give you